Emily Dickinson was a poet so mercurial that so often when reading her poems, we can come to the conclusion that they are about something completely different than what it was that we had set out to read. We can come to the conclusion that so many of her poems are counterintuitive, so many of her poems are so utterly original that you cannot tell where they will end from where they start, but you always have that inclination to try to see forward to where it's going. And so often with Emily Dickinson, you're just wrong. We have a poem today that, try as I might to make it about something else. And I've got several poetry discussions on this poem on the channel. Try as I might to make it a little bit more intricate or salacious, perhaps, than is immediate on the text. I might just have to concede that I am wrong, and this poem is exactly what it is that you think it is. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where literature lives. I am Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will come to us from Emily Dickinson, and in as much, it will appear in two different playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, careening towards 800 or 900 videos strong, and also the Emily Dickinson playlist, a playlist of videos dedicated exclusively to the greatest poet of all time. The poem in question today is "I Taste a Liquor Never Brewed," and it reads, if I can get whatever is in my eye out of my eye, it reads as such. I taste a liquor never brewed, from tankards scooped in pearl. Not all the Frankfurt berries yield such an alcohol. Inebriate of air am I, and debauchee of dew, reeling through endless summer days from inns of molten blue. When landlords turn the drunken bee out of the foxglove's door, when butterflies renounce their drams, I shall but drink the more, till seraphs swing their snowy hats, and saints to windows run, to see the little tippler leaning against the sun. So what are we doing here? I taste a liquor never brewed, from tankards scooped in pearl. Not all the Frankfurt berries yield such an alcohol. I'm drunk. And it's not as if this were from some liquor that you could just buy, that you could just brew. It has never been distilled. It has never been fermented. It is just as it is. And I think that is a little bit more telling than perhaps I think that is very telling. I'll just say it that way. Because to have never been fermented suggests that to have never been brewed suggests that whatever it is upon which our speaker is drunk is very fresh. Almost as if it's not liquor, but poison, right? A poison berry, right? So liquor is poison. Alcohol is poison. That's what it is. But we like to call it something slightly different. We like to have our stiff upper lip and high brow because of it, but it's just poison. And if you are getting the same effects as liquor with something that was never brewed, probably it is something that you're not supposed to consume, right? And I think that might be fairly telling as well once we get around to what it is we're talking about. Inebriate of air am I, and debauchee of dew, reeling through endless summer days from inns of molten blue. I'm drunk on the air, right? I'm drunk on the air, and I am debauchered by the dew itself, the morning dew itself, reeling through endless summer days from inns of molten blue. I am stuck in the sky. Let me take in the summer sky. When landlords turn the drunken bee out of the foxglove's door, when butterflies renounce their drams, I shall but drink the more. So this is interesting because this suggests that the landlords are flowers or flowering plants or the stamen of flowering plants, because a foxglove is a flower. So this is the landlords kicking the bee out of the foxglove flower once they are drunk, once they have gotten to that pollen. When butterflies renounce their drams, a dram is a small bit of alcohol, like a shot almost. So when all of this is going on, when the drunken bees are kicked out, and when the butterflies are quitting cold turkey, I shall but drink thee more. Till seraphs swing their snowy hats, and saints to windows run, to see the little tippler leaning against the sun. So a tippler is someone who, I believe really what it is someone who drinks socially, but is always social. If I am getting the connotation of that word right, that's what it means. Someone who, sort of like a barfly, I guess you could say. Till seraphs, this is saying that angels and saints will run to the windows to see me leaning against the sun. So that's all fine and dandy, and you would, I think, be on the right path if you said one of either two things about what it is that our speaker is speaking. One, it's a love poem. Two, it's nature. Nature is doing this to our speaker. Three, you could fuse the two of those previous explanations and say that our speaker is so enwrapped with nature itself that it is not just that the liquor never brewed, which our speaker is drunk on which our speaker is drunk, is not just nature, right? Not just, oh, I want to be outside, but it is something closer to a religious or spiritual connection with nature, right? Writhing in the ever-present tentacles of nature, if you are so inclined. But there's one thing that I think does require other examination. You mention a bug, or you mention a time of the year, or you mention a flower. All of these things we have to look into pretty immediately if they appear in poetry, because they come with them some connotation. Foxglove. Well, foxglove has some medicinal uses. Were these medicinal uses available in Emily Dickinson's time? Yeah, a couple hundred years before, in fact. Historical uses, this is from Wikipedia, of foxglove. Nicholas Culpeper included foxglove in his 1652 Herbal Medicine Guide, The English Physician. He cited its use for healing wounds, both fresh and old, as a purgative for the king's evil, myobacterial cervical lymphadenitis, denitis, for the falling sickness, epilepsy, and for a scabby head. There is no empirical evidence for these claims, and it is not used for these conditions in modern medicine, only for slowing excessive heart rate in certain circumstances or strengthening heart muscle contraction in heart failure. Now, as I understand, and I could be wrong, It was known in Emily Dickinson's day to have some effect on the heart. So, I think that this is sort of an orgiastic relationship with nature that is going on here. The implication of foxglove, a drug, a flower that has pretty powerful effect on the heart, right? You have all of the feeling of drunkenness from the speaker here, debauchee of dew, all of these things. And yeah, I think that that's pretty much where you're going with this poem. And that might be the obvious answer, even when you don't delve deeply into the poem. So why have a discussion about it? Because if this is a poem about an orgiastic relationship with nature itself, something that does borderline on the sexual, that is a relationship with nature that is there in place of a relationship with another human being. It does suggest that these things were alive inside the speaker. The speaker was not simply bereft of all of these types of feelings or emotions or drives or impulses or urges, but the speaker was, in fact, cognizant of them and found something else to do with them. It is almost fetishistic. And that's sad, isn't it? Sad that someone with such a legendary ability to perceive as had Emily Dickinson is not able to make that connection with another human being. There's a lot of tragedy in the Emily Dickinson story. There's a lot of tragedy in Emily Dickinson's poetry. But it is made all the more tragic when you take into account the fact that through her letters, through her words, through her poetry, you see very clearly that this was an individual with those capacities. This was an individual who could and should have had more people, but did not. This is someone who we can see through several poems was cognizant of the fact that they were alone, so alone. But it did not stop her from working, at least not on her poetry. This type of poem that shows us that bit from the speaker, that shows us the speaker was really in tune with her own emotion. Like, I think that you can have a poet that is in tune with emotionality, but not necessarily in tune with their emotions. That is understanding of what it is that all these emotions are, but maybe not why they're having them, right? I think that a lot of the romantics were so good at flexing that muscle of feeling that they never got past it, really. Emily Dickinson gets past that. Emily Dickinson is not a slave to her emotions. Emily Dickinson is a poet who takes those emotions and delves into them, trying to understand them. The romantics tried to explain their feelings, tried to show you their feelings, have you feel the same feelings. Emily Dickinson wanted to understand them and wanted to sort of, maybe not, well, yeah, no, I think understand. Wanted to understand them and wanted to put them so indelibly on the page that the reader had to understand something in a different light. Had to take something from that poem and grow from it. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on the channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.